So this time the key is ship name and the date. Ship name and date. Let's take a look at the ship name and determine voyage ID and port. Ship name and the date determine voyage ID and the port. What about the ship type and cargo? Through the ship name you can determine ship type, and through the voyage ID you can determine cargo. So ship name plus date can be the primary key. So key of this one. So first there is a first normal form. Okay. Where is it? Oh, here. So we decide the ship name and date as the key. It's a first normal form, right? First normal form is attribute. Attribute is atomic, so it's automatically the first normal form. What about the second normal form? Second normal form, ship name determine ship name and date. Determine what? Voyage ID and port, and also voyage ID determine cargo and also ship name. And the first one, ship name determine ship type. So this one and this one is a prime attribute. This is a non-prime attribute. So is it whole key dependence? Yes, ship name plus date, whole key dependence. Port is also whole key dependence. What about the cargo? Cargo is depends on the voyage ID, which means it's okay. The second one, because it's not prime attribute, it's not partial. Okay, but the ship type is depend on partial key. It's a ship name only. Solution? We can take out the ship determine ship. What is that? Ship name determine the ship. Ship name determine the ship type. We can take out that part. So like the second normal form, the ship name determine ship type. So we can take out this part. Then the ship name plus date determine voyage ID and the cargo and port. Okay. So this one is this. Okay. Don't be confused. This one is this. It's the first normal form, and the ship and the voyage is the second normal form. Okay. Any questions so far? It's so simple. So you can just remove the partial. Third normal form. Can you identify any the transitive? Yes. Voyage ID determine cargo. Voyage ID determine cargo. So solution? Segmentation. So voyage ID determine cargo. We can take out the cargo, the relation. So we have the three of them. So up to the normal form is simple. What about the BCNF? BCNF is like I asked, remember this one. AB is a prime attribute, C is non-prime attribute, and C determine part of prime attribute. Similarly, ship name, date, ship name and date. Voyage ID determine ship name. Okay, when you have trouble, okay, then you need the ship. That determines the ship name. Okay, so that is this one. So this is not BCNF. So we will consider this is also transitive. So in the BCNF solution, we can separate the voyage ID determine the ship. So that is the ship, the voyage. Voyage ID determine the ship name. Okay, we can take out this one and the other from the third normal form. So this is the BCNF. This is the most general, the normalization form used in the real project. Okay. Please practice the other. So for example, in case the data are given, you need to identify the functional dependency. Okay, and the functional dependency first, and apply the normalization form. Okay. So next. this is indexing. What is okay, so actually the author of the textbook, Dr. Elmersary, Ramesh Elmersary, he is one of the professors who proposed the conceptual level modeling and the ontology before. So he graduated from the Stanford, he got the degree from the Stanford. So some of the scholars from the Stanford actually the lead such a conceptual modeling 20, 30 years ago. And he and his colleague believed the ontology will replace the relational database, but was not. Because one of the reasons is the industry company is too big to change the algorithm. So for example, Oracle, Informix, DB to IBM, they don't want to lose it. They don't want to be risky. So they try to keep the relational database model. Okay? So then there's no funding, no investment to the new stage of the database or knowledge management still used. So for me, it's good because I'm teaching the algorithm, but it's not good for the industry and the computer science overall. Think about the program language or algorithm. It's changed a lot. It's object-oriented programming and the data structure are used in many of the computer science area except the database. Database still use a relational model, atomic model, and so on. So that's one of the big problems, but it will be changed soon, I believe. Okay, then. So what is this? It's our computer to where we can keep the database. So this is one of the main part of the database server is the memory. So this is our memory. And then they have the secondary storage. It can be file, it can be raw device, but anyway. So what happens when you start up the DBMS, like the Oracle or MySQL, for example? Since you are using the cloud-based MySQL, so you may not realize whether I need to start the database or not, or shut down. However, you can do that. If you are using command line interface after logging the SQL Server virtual machine, then you are able to shut down and start. Any DBMS software is a software, which means you can start that software. You can start the Oracle. You can start the Informix. You can start the SQL Server. Then also you can shut down. You can stop your system. Right now you are using button, starting instance and shut down and start, stop and start. Okay. But what if you start your SQL, MySQL, or any database? There are two main parts during the starting. One is creating process. Number of process will be created because database itself is a software. Software means it's an application program. Application program means it's a process. You need to, when you start to double click or command line, it will start the process. So a number of process will be started. Some of them are in charge of the specific purpose, like the database write, DB write, or log write, or some of them are for the connection, client to server, the database connection. Some of them are the management and backup. So number of processes will be started. MySQL is the same, SQL Server is the same, Oracle is the same, any DBMS, depending on the DBMS, the number of processes will be changed, but the most they start a number of processes. Then another main part is it allocate, reserve the memory area. Okay, so sometimes it's called in Oracle it's called the SGA, System Global Area, or sometimes it's just the buffer or memory. Why? Why database reserve the memory area? Memory is used for storage. For what? Better performance. Or mostly better performance, which means fast. Okay? So we can use this area as cache. Database cache area. So two parts. Reserve the memory and create the process. Then there are many other tasks like checking your file system, database file, and so on. But these are the main part. Then once your database is started, sometimes it's called instance, MySQL instance. The reason is that in one computer, one server, you can start a number of instances. So I'd like to start three database instances. One is used for HR, another one is used for the payroll, this one is used for the customer. But most of the case, we start one instance, a single instance per database server. But it is possible to start multiple instances. So from time to time, we use the instances instead of the server. So MySQL instance you can start. So right now, currently it's running. Running means it's successfully started. So we have this is a server, this is a client, which means database connection. When you connect the database, we use the client server network architecture. It's a client server, TCP IP based. Which means if you know the IP address and port number, so you can connect. So you need IP address plus host name plus what? Port number plus what do you need to connect the database? How many databases? Many. So you need to know instance name, database name, then plus username and password. Username and password, I will explain that later. So these are the four connections. So using this information, like to think about the Java. So I'd like to use a JDBC. So as we discussed in the JDBC, the Java database connectivity, you need to specify host name or IP address, port number, plus database name, instance name. So always the three things you need to use. MySQL is the same thing. You need to specify host name, IP address, and the database name, and the port number. Usually port number you don't specify sometimes, in case they are using well-known port. Well-known port means what? Reserve. Most of people use, for example, HTTP.
80.
It's 80. Well-known port number. So if you are not sure what is a well-known port, wiki. Then list up the whole well-known port. Less than 1K.
Yeah.
But the database is the application. It's not the server side operating. So they are using higher than. So for example, Oracle use 1521. DB2, IBM use 50001. I forgot MySQL. MySQL use, anyone who remember?
38.
13?
36, I don't know. I'm just
I look, but we are using the GCP. MySQL also use the default. You can check, quickly check. So this is well-known port. If you want to change means when you start your database server, you can change the configuration. This is a funny story. Long time ago, not nowadays, long time, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So I was able to access the one of real bank database. Access the customer. Why? When they migrate their system to the Oracle, they use the default port number. So I can easily check, because at the time the network security was not critical. Nobody used. No DMZ. So I can find the host name, and through the host name, IP address, So I know the IP address, then use the 1521. Problem is the username and password. So there are two types of the username and password. One is OS, one is DB. OS authentication means using OS username and password, which is not recommended. And most of the case, database username and password, like the root, root and the password, your password in the exercise slide. Oracle uses both of them, but mostly it's suggested. However, if you install the Oracle, there are several default installed username and password. One of them is Scott Tiger. Have you ever heard about Scott Tiger? It's for practice purpose. Just a simple database. Scott is the username and Tiger. Why? I don't know why. Then, surprisingly, many of the database administrators for practice give the super user permission to this one, which is called the DBA permission in Oracle. Which means I know the host name, IP address, and port number, username and password. Even this one is administrator. So I actually demonstrated one time. It's not hacking. It's just using the basic information, log on, and show the database. And the surprise. So this is how to connect the database. Then the username and password. Do not use the super user like the root user, or in Oracle it's called the sys and the system user. Do not use it. But for your practice, for the configuration, we are using the root user for your practice. But in real life system, please do not use the super user. Then finally we are able to connect. Using what? We are using database application. For example, I'd like to use the MySQL. What is this? It's a midterm exam. MySQL is an application program to connect the database, and you can give the SQL here. Then it will be something. Then this is this from now on we are going to this. So far it is a kind of the warming up. So from now on, so we will talk about the main part of the today's lecture. So I'd like to submit the for example this one. Select asset risk from employee. It's very basic SQL. What happened when you start the MySQL and type select asset risk from employee and enter? What happened? Return data. However, the more important thing is in between. When you enter, then before you receive the data, we are going to talk about what happened between them. Okay? Probably something happened here. So what's going on? So that is the main part. That is usually not discussed in the database class. But it's more important to understand how database management system is organized, what's the main role, how to use that. Okay, first, this is what kind of language is this? SQL is a structured query language. SQL is the language for what? For to access the what kind of database? Relational database only. Okay, that's the only way to access the data, and you need to use, no matter what program language you use, you need to use the SQL to access the data. Is it difficult or easy? It's very easy comparing to other program languages, which means this is a very, very high-level language. Okay, which means when you submit this query, DBMS cannot understand this query. So you need to do what? You need to compile. Okay? Always we need to compile high-level language to machine code. Database query is the same thing, compile. Specifically, if this one is the command line interface, and also it's not procedural language, it's a structured language. which means we need to do interpreter. We need to use the interpret. So if you are taking operating system class, you did the project. In the first project, to implement the shell programming. Shell programming is kind of interpreter. Line by line, command by command, you can compile. So this should be interpreted, compiled. What happened in the compiler? Anyone who developed the compiler program? Lex. Lex means lexical analysis. Okay. Anyone? What's going on? While you are compiling the C language or any Java language, I strongly suggest to study before you get a job. Okay? Probably after you got a job, so you will not study. So when you have a time, read the compiler. Textbook may not be easy. It's very, very boring. But if you read the article related to the compiler, it will be really, really helpful because you need to understand the hardware, especially processor. Okay, the processor. Then you need to understand the program language, especially recursive program language. Then there are a lot of things happen. But to simplify what's going on in the compiler,
Convert
you need to
machine readable, human readable to machine readable.
then, like for example, lexical analysis. It's a high-level language. So you need to extract the word by word. Okay, which one is keyword, which one is not, in this case. Then, parse. You need to parse. Parsing means, so you need to understand each one, then check the syntax. Okay, this is called lexical analysis. As a language, you need to understand, analyze this one. There are details of the step abstraction and so on, but the overall, first the scanning. You need to scan all this and check which one is keyword or not, then parse. Okay, whether this is good in terms of syntax or not. Then finally, validation. Validation means even though your syntax is correct, but what if there is no EMP? Then it will be error. In terms of syntax, it's okay, but you need to validate. So scanning, parsing, and validation will be happen right after you submit it. Then that will be, for example, in case of a program language, it will be object file. Output of the compiler is object file. In this case, it's the same concept but different name as the P code. Sometimes it's called a P code or not binary code, actually P code. It's a kind of machine interpreted the code, not human being. It's kind of object file. It's the result of that. So this scanning, parsing, validating will be happen. Then P code will be stored at this area. Question: why we need to store the P code in the memory?
It's in the current execution.
Current execution. What is the main purpose of this? Fast access, cache. We will reuse later because it's a time-consuming and the resource unit, expensive job. But think about the menu. A lot of people click the same menu. If you purchase the Black Friday item, right? Their code will be almost the same. The only difference is the ID, user ID, right? Their code, this binary P code will be the same. You can reuse cache instead of processing, compile. You don't have to. So not only database, data buffer, data cache, but also database keep this language. Okay, it's called I forgot the name of that. So SQL cache. I forgot the name of the cache. It depends on the DBMS. They use the different. But this one, data buffer cache. This one, I forgot the name of it. Anyway, so you can keep the SQL as a buffer. Another one is I don't think we will see later. Log. log data will be buffered also. I will explain later. Okay, so this code is right now P code, then going to here. Then finally, database engine would like to access such a binary code, P code, for what? Access the data. Then at that time, for example, employee table here. Just going to that employee table and get the data. Looks like the simple, but from now we will talk about the different case. The Thanksgiving Day, I'd like to go into the New York, Manhattan. Okay, so how many different ways to travel the New York? One is
Train.
you can walk, right?
Well, yeah, kind of. Difficult.
No? A little bit difficult, okay. But I don't have any money. I just work. But if you have a little bit money, you can
Train.
city bike. There's a city bike, so you can travel the bike. And if you really have money, you can take the cab always. And you can take the subway or limo. Okay, that's it. 5 different ways. So when you travel to any city, you can use one of this way. Okay. Then, even though we are going to visit the same place, employee table, there are a bunch of different ways. Why? Think about the work. It's a linear search. We can linearly access all the data and take out, like in case where condition here. What else? If data file is ordered, we can use binary search. And also, if you have an index on the ID, we can use the index, primary index. Sometimes you can use a secondary index. Even secondary index, you have the B3 index or composite index, let's say the 4 of them, 5 of them. Even accessing the one table is the 5 of different cases. Okay? Then, which one is faster? We cannot say always the binary search is the faster because sometimes database, the file is not the order. Also, if you are accessing all the data, not one data, linear search is faster rather than the index. We will see the example later. So, we don't know which one is the faster. So, query optimizer, query processor and query optimizer are not much different. Mostly query optimizer is part of the query processor. Query process in charge of the creating P code. Then decide which way is the fastest way. You need to decide the fastest way so to return the data. Once query optimizer determine this one is the fastest way, then access the data, return to the client the data. This is what happened. So today, this week, we will talk about how query optimizer is working. This is the main part of the query process. Okay, then go back to here. I'd like to, the Thanksgiving Day, I'd like to go to the Boston and New York also. To travel to Boston, we can walk, and the bike, and cab. Is there any subway? It's not subway in Boston, it's a train, right? It's I think there's something name of train, right? So let's say train, subway, and limo. Also 5 different ways. How many different combination of to travel Boston and New York? 5 times 5, right? You can travel to New York, well, and Boston, can. You can select the different combination. Total 25 different ways, right? So a lot, but you need to select one of them. Also, I'd like to go to the New York. One more. DC. Walk, bike, cab, train, and limo. How many different in this case?
125.
5 times 5 times 5. 125. Then, the problem is how to go to New York to Boston.
Select one.
You can drive. Rule out work. Not possible. Drive. Or airplane. Okay? And even the airplane, I have a private jet, helicopter. 3 different ways. And also Boston to DC, same drive, airplane, and helicopter. 3 different ways. How many different ways? How many different combination of the ways for transition? 3 by 3. So 9 different ways. And how many total combination travel each city and the transition?
5 times 10.
9. Almost 1K. Okay? So already 1K, 1,000 different ways. Then, I'm not going to New York first. I'd like to go to the Boston first, then New York, then DC. And DC first, Boston. How many different order to travel? It's a n factorial problem, right? So it's a 3 factorial 6. 6 different, so 6 times 1K is already, when you travel 3 cities, it's already how many different ways? 6,000 different ways. So you need to select one of them, okay, to travel in this Thanksgiving. Then, problem is how to judge. What is the criteria to decide which one? So my criteria is the always cheaper one. Okay, in terms of money. So cheaper one, the walk, and the drive. So then the cheapest one is from the Bridgeport, Boston first, then New York and DC. So this is my rule, then I can select easily. Right? So this is the how Curie Optimizer is working. Also somebody, my satisfaction, okay? No matter how much money, I don't care the money, so I'm thinking the satisfaction. So you can select the helicopter and the cab and so on. My criteria is the time, fastest one.